time to turn the key. Release your stress and pain along with me, yeah. It's not about perfection, it's about the connection. Now put it on your canvas and let it be.
Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today we're going to paint these trees. So this is one of my favorite One Hoot designs because it's very new painter friendly. There's some great skills that you can learn from it, but they're not such overwhelming skills and there are not so many coming at you. So I think it's just one of those paintings that we get great results. I actually even got to teach this recently to people in person and see and make sure that they were getting great results. That was a lot of fun. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
And he's going to be tracking me with our cameras to make sure that you can see every angle and every element of what I'm doing. That way you can produce this for yourself at home. I'm going to show you a really important fan brush secret. This technique, if you understand it, it will unlock the fan brush for you. So if you've really been struggling with the fan brush, then you're going to be like, oh, I understand what's happening here. So that's going to make that much more enjoyable for you. And there's not that many colors. So I think it's just one of those paintings that we can just jump right on in. So I hope everybody's really good today.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I've got two examples of it because I had to teach it again and again. So there's a couple of ways that you can see it. I have a bunch of wishes here on my canvas. This is canvas particle kind of a board here, an economic panel, and it's ready to paint. You could use stretch canvas. You could use acrylic paper. We have a wish from Lisa, wishes for her doctor to help her with her health, and Nancy for well-being for her brother who's in the hospital, and Kathy for her sister to have just a really successful surgery, and Sandra for her daughter. To recover and be all the way back from an infection. And Kristen is just wishing well-being for her mom. Nicole for people struggling with depression. And we always at the channel go, that, we know that art and healing and depression, this is an illness that there could be a lot more compassion for in the world. Carrie wishes for her family. Justin is, love and light for Uncle Alan. Melanie, strength, going through a loss with her mom. And Gwenifer, for all pieces of her life to come together. I'm with you, Gwen, I wish for that to myself. I hope everybody's ready to check out the materials.
Oh, yeah.
2 places the materials are in the description below. I like to hide it there where YouTube lets me hide it. So how it works is that they give us a couple of lines that you can see really easily, and then there's what they call the fold, and it has a little tiny, almost impossible to see button that says more. If you open it up, you get to see 50,000 other characters. And guess what? I'm as wordy in my description as I am in life. There's a lot of information down there, including all the materials and everything that we're using today. But over here, I have everything laid out. I have the colors titanium white, cad yellow medium, quinacridone magenta, and dioxazine purple. Little secret about this particular painting. Once you know these techniques, do this with me as it is. But once you know them, you can change up the trees. You can use any colors you want. It's one of those projects that lets you make many other projects from it. So I'm super excited. As thus my completely talking fast. I'm like a transformer up in here.
I think the coffee helps.
Coffee does help everything. Coffee caused the Renaissance. Age of Enlightenment, actually, I think it's coffee.
Yeah, I think, all programmers at some point have. Well, I won't say all. That's a very blanket statement. But I mean, I would say many have a great appreciation for that chemical compound.
For the coffee?
For the caffeine, particularly.
Now, I'm going to very lightly mist my canvas. This is going to help the watercolor. I use watercolor pencils to write my wishes, and that's going to help it dissipate. It's also going to help if my canvas is resisting paint, and it's going to let the paint flow on more smoothly in dry conditions. The thing is, be careful because sometimes these are made from, particle board or papers and things like that. And if you over soak them, they'll bend. So it's a balancing act, guys. That's all the mist I'm going to do.
Just a super light.
I'm going to grab my big brush. This is my number 30. It's just a big wide brush. You just grab whatever big wide brush you have. You don't have to have this exact brush. Not necessary. in any way. I'm just kind of blending those little words in, letting them go into the universe and their positivity spreading out far and wide.
Thank you guys for coming and making help be part of that.
I do absolutely love that. Positivity. Let's all just be calm for a second and know that the week is getting better. Good things are happening.
Yeah.
Now I have here water and just my brush. I'm going to dip my brush in the water and drag off the extra. You know, and again, just use your biggest, flattest brush that you have so you can get nice banding. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some white onto my brush. And I'm going to come up from the bottom with this white, blending it about halfway into the canvas this time. Not all the way, just about halfway. There's an interesting transition between the yellow and the quinacridone, and this is going to help me get that nice effect. Now I'm going to come over to my yellow. I'm going to load that up and get some white into it because we want to lighten it, right? Got to lighten that yellow. Lighten the yellow. And I'm going to come from the bottom and just brush back and forth. That's why I like the wide brush, is it gives me this big sweeping stroke. Now when I get to this point, which is just a little bit above halfway, I'll brush this out back and forth, smooth anything I need to. I'm going to wipe off my brush. Right? See how I'm doing right on my little paint towel here, but I'm not rinsing out the pigment. I'm going to come get a little water into it, drag off the extra, and pull out my quinacridone. Getting a little bit of white. And I don't mind if a small amount of yellow works into this. And the reason that I don't is because we want to transition between my yellow and the pink sky above. So I'm going to come just a little bit into this spot. And I'm going to go back and forth very lightly with this brush. And then as I come up, I'm going to press a little bit harder, getting all the pigment off. See, I'm going back and forth on the flat, dragging back and forth on the flat. I'm going to wipe this off on my towel and watch that. Where these two are still wet next to each other, I'm going to blend them together. Doesn't that make a nice blend? Just brushing this back and forth. And then I want it to be a little darker as I go up. Here's my trick. I'm going to get a little of my quinacridone on my brush. And I'm going to let it be darker, quite bright pink. You can even smidge a little yellow into it so that it's a little warm. I find that can be quite lovely. I'm going to come to the top. And I'm going to start bringing that dark color down into the softer pink. And if you're seeing here like I'm going and I'm not really getting paint on the canvas, that's because I probably didn't have enough moisture in my brush. But luckily there was enough on my canvas, so that worked out. So this time I'm going to dip a little bit, just the edges of my bristles in there. You can see that I actually brought out quite a lot of water. Load up with this beautiful pigment and go across again. And you can see that the brush is offloading pigment much easier now. My big trick is going to be to come across and gently smooth. And to do that, I'm just being very light with my pressure. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on your brush when you're smoothing.
Yeah, especially don't put pressure on your brush, man.
Don't put pressure on yourself.
Just be nice and easy with your brush, man.
Be nice and easy, man. Nice and easy. And you can always come down here and just see how I go over it just so softly. I'm just kissing with the brush. This works because these two areas are both still wet. And there, make sure that it's sort of a smooth application. And that should give you this nice transition. It can be kind of hard to transition skies sometimes. From how sometimes it'll be yellow at the bottom and blue at the top, or purple and orange and yellow can be really difficult to transition. Getting good at this little middle space will really help you succeed in your painting experience. And you can always practice that on a scratch piece of paper. You don't have to work it all out on your canvas every time. You can be like, how can I transition? Let me see on this very inexpensive piece of construction paper. It can be helpful.
We're going to do the clouds first, right?
We're going to do the clouds next.
Oh, the clouds go in so neatly.
They do. Now I'm going to treat myself to my cloud brush, right? When we did these initially, all I had was my little stencils. I don't know if I have a stencil.
I'm not sure if you have a stencil.
Remember we didn't get the clouds and we had to use the, there's one.
So you really could use just about anything.
Yeah. The the examples that we did at MetaCon, I had to use these stencils because we had these instead of the cloud.
Yep.
So really, you just want a nice scruffy brush that you can do a very light contact with. I'm going to go ahead and load this brush up. And notice that I'm pulling out, and I turn the brush, and I pull out, and I turn, and I pull out. All right. So now I've got that loaded. And that's really worked all in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be very light with my pressure. My canvas is still wet. And I'm going to just come up, see, with that little kind of circular stroke. But then I'll go down, and I'm going to come up. The trick with clouds is to be erratic with them, right? They make here I am loading again. They make weird little shapes, and you don't want to clone. But can you see how I go up, and then I come down? Now I'm going to press out some of this little paint. And you can see what happens when I press in with my brush is that it pushes some of that paint to the edge of it, making some of my clouds seem, a little pushed out white. I'm going to load up a little more white in here. You can do this on a dry brush or wet into wet. Either is fine. I'm doing a wet into wet today. And then you can see underneath that I'm blending this out. See how I'm blending it out? Come back up. Look, I'm going to push a second little line here. You can't really do your cloud wrong, guys. I know you will often go, oh, I just messed up my clouds, or clouds are my nemesis. And my thing is, don't try to do every cloud. Get good at one cloud. Like maybe you master this sort of little fluffy cloud wet into wet, right? And then take on like a cumulus nimbus and master that cloud, and then take on a different cloud. Don't try to take on all clouds at once. Leave some clouds for another day. I'm going to pull. See how I'm pulling from the edge of the paint into my brush, and I pull out into this long strip. This is helping me load this brush. This is a very stiff brush. You could use the corner of any brush. You can use anything. It's more important the motion of the stroke than anything else. I'm going to come right here, and I'm very light to the canvas. And you can see, even though it's wet, if I'm pressing lightly, it just barely leaves some paint, doesn't it? Let's come up here and make some little airy fairy bits here. Oh, I'm going to go back like that. That's one of my favorite little moves to make. As if there's a backdraft. It's so weird with my clouds. Come here and press up a little cumulus, and he'll come down. It goes up, 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 and down. Oh, and then I like to just soften the bottom. See how we're doing?
Oh, yeah.
And you can blend in here. Remember, you can press out to push out some of that little paint for some more pigment. And so now we've got the sort of, really take that down. And out. There you go, it's a little airy fairy. So there's some moisture there, and then you see some pushed up, but it's not going everywhere. I might fix that bend there, but it's not too strong. I'm going to wipe a little bit, because again, I'm working, the paint is still wet. I'm pulling it out, flip. This is true of all your brushes when you're trying to load a large amount of heavy acrylic into them, is this flipping and loading. It will really help you. Now let's make something sort of cheerful here. I'm going to come off from the right-hand side, and I'm going to just, you can see that sort of curved stroke. It's not a full circle.
Yeah.
I'm not going circle, circle, circle. And I'm not making the steel wool. And now I'm going to come up, and sometimes I like to go back in my brush stroke. Yeah, I kind of went back there. And I'll pull this up, and then let's come down. So this kind of came up. So it's not circles, and it's not on the tip of the brush, because look what happens when I go on the tip of the brush. I mean, it'd make a really good candle.
Do that again. I couldn't see that.
Oh, okay. So if I'm on the tip, all it's going to do is this little ballerina pirouette. Which is nice. I mean, I can do something with that. Look. Yeah. I can, but what I'm trying to do is more of that.
Gotcha.
So I'm on this edge right here, like this, instead of on the tip. The tip is nice if I'm trying to do like a little candlelight or a little aurora effect. Look at that push, and then that pushes that paint out. That's what I like, push, and then push the paint out. And come underneath, scumbly back and forth. Oh, soften, 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 soften. I love it. And Make some little stratas coming back and forth. Back and forth. Light pressure. You can almost hear it, can't you? How light that pressure is. So now I have that little festive little cloud. Pull it out. Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Now maybe I'll make one that's sort of a little more mid-space here. And I'm creating the top line, trying to decide where does this little guy go. He's going to be a little bit lower in his profile, I think. And push him there. I can always, blend it out. It's still wet. If it's not wet underneath anymore, then I'm just dry brushing my cloud. They both work. It's just a cloud. You're not really going to... So I'm kind of come down a little angle. I go back and forth. I just bring that down a little angle. Softening the base of that cloud. If I want to put a little more aspect on there, I just get some more paint and put it down a little bit heavier. And it looks like the bank of a second little run of it, doesn't it? I want to say clouds are easy, but I know some of you guys feel like that is not an accurate assessment of what it feels like to paint a cloud. So I don't want to take away from you all your experience, but you can see it's just real easy to drop some atmospheric little fluffy bits off into the background. If you have a little trouble changing your shapes or getting out of the cotton ball, remember, again, practice. You can take that skill to a practice sheet of paper before putting it on your canvas and be like, can I make this cloud shape? Can I practice these moves? And try to imagine that you're in the brush and you're like being Jackie Chan and you're like, dodge. That's what I like to do. Which is strange. I understand. All right. I am going to get my number 10 bright. This is interesting because whereas like most of the brushes in the world will say bright, here mine says Goldilocks. And if you're brand new here, you can ask one of the people who've been here for a while why that would be true.
So funny.
They might even tell you it's a cookie in the channel. Why is the number 10 called Goldilocks? But any number 10 bright, whether she's named Goldilocks or not, will work. Don't feel pressure there. I'm loading her up with CAD yellow medium, and you can see I'm doing that same load that I did with the cloud where I'm flipping the brush and pulling it out. See how that pulls a lot of paint into my brush? That helps me. Now I'm going to make a little hill. Since I painted my far away objects, I can paint my next closest object I would see. And I'm going to come from about right here and bring a little hill down. How's my hill growing today? We're going to find out. I like to make my hill sort of a little uneven and strange. That's what I like to do.
I like that hill.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. It's a fine hill as far as yellow
as
hills
go. It's a fine hill as far as hills could go. And I just paint that whole hill yellow, which is an interesting thing to do.
I would call that a screaming yellow hill.
It's a screaming yellow hill.
It's like, I'm yellow.
Well, that's the undercolor of the hill. I could do it with a deep, deep mix of phthalo green and burnt sienna. And then my top colors would be like a little phthalo green and maybe a little cad yellow. And that would make that same effect, but with traditional landscape color. Now let's get the fan out because we're all a fan of the fan, aren't we?
Fan it up.
I'm going to grab this fan right here. You can use a number 6 or number 4. I've got a number 6 here. And it's got a nice curve. You're going to want your fan to have a line. I'm just going to see how many fans I have currently sitting in my little world. Here's some little fans. This is a 4, and you can see what the difference is like just the size. It's just there's a little more size here. So if I'm doing a bigger canvas, I might pick a number 6. Now, here's the trick, and I'm going to demo it on the back of a canvas. There you go. Oh, I love that color. It's so good. Grabbing that blue canvas right there because I can just paint right over it. I want to show them something cool. I'm going to paint back over this so you don't have to worry about it. I got to put I'm going to put a tree tunnel on here for a later lesson. So I don't mind if I put a little weird extra paint in out of the blue because I know I'm painting over it more. All right. Here I go. I'm getting my fan brush wet, and I'm going to get just my yellow so you can see it on the canvas. All right, I'm going to show you the secret of the fan. The fan brush does a couple of things. The fan brush on the toe of the brush, this is the edge of the bristles, will make a nice line. Right? Look at that line. It actually does that. And you can kind of get a calligraphy effect. See how that does? A lot of people don't realize this about the fan. Everybody knows it makes grass, but they're not really sure. They kind of want to go like that to get the grass, and they're not really always getting the result that they want. Couple of things about fans. Most of them are not made for heavy-bodied acrylic paint, and this one actually is, so it does push it around nicely. Another way I can make a stroke is an off angle. See how it's like is that a 20-degree slant, John?
Maybe
it's not like a 90.
Yeah.
It's like at a partial slant.
Very tilt.
Look at that grass right there. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
And here's the secret of the fan. Handle up. The brush will smile.
No, wait, I'm not up there yet.
Okay, I'll do it here. Handle up makes a smile. Handle down makes a frown.
Right.
So when you're trying to make a tree, if you want its branches to be up, the handle needs to be up itself. See? Like in that little Bob Ross tree.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want the kind of pines that are down, you got to hold the handle down. And that's really about the type of pine that you're painting. And then the other thing is these center bristles are the ones that you get the most contact from. So those will be the ones where you focus the load of paint. But don't forget the power of that 20-degree slant when you're trying to get grass. Hopefully that unlocks it for you.
That's amazing.
And I'll smooth this out because I'm going to paint a tree tunnel on here in a minute. Hopefully you guys want a tree tunnel. Okay. I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet.
Scoot your painting back over in the middle.
In the middle. Okay. And I'm going to make some little background grass just real quick, just real fast. All right, like you do.
Like you do.
Like we do. And you know, you've got your 20-degree slant, don't you? Look at that. 20-degree slant. Not this far in, though that works too, but you can see you kind of lose it. You just want that little bit of a slant. And then when you want to come back the other way, you just reverse it back the other way. See?
Oh, your hat got me.
Oh, sorry. So you can just reverse it back the other way.
Oh, there it goes.
And that's how you can, with very little effort, get a very natural grass. Now, because I want to put some trees forward in front of this, I need to put a background row of grass before I put my trees in. I don't rinse. I just go ahead and grab my quinacridone. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go back over, this time just engaging the corner of my fan on the 20-degree slant to highlight some of my grass with some of this paint, but so that it doesn't feel stagnant. And see, I can come back and change that angle if I need to, curving back that way.
Your hat got me again. Oh, there it goes.
I'm going to lean back. See how I can get lots of different little windblown grassy grass?
It is. You know what's funny is I'm watching you, and you're kind of like a dancer. You lean the way that you're going to paint.
I do, don't I?
I zoomed out on the other camera to watch it. It's funny because you kind of lean one way, then you lean the other.
Now, don't worry. We're going to have a whole video about fan brushes. Right? Now, I'm going to dry this. Can I turn on the AC unit, babe?
Yes. If
I'll stop if I hear the air conditioner go.
Yeah, it's off, I think.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to dry this real fast.
Okay. And I'm going to say, hey guys, thank you for coming and joining us. Oh my gosh, such a lovely, lovely, wonderful group of people out here. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you. I'd say, if you are hair drying at home, well, don't hair dry. If you're going to try to speed up the curing of the paint on your surface, then don't use heat. Just use your air mover on the lowest heat setting possible so that you don't induce color shift or shrinkage or problems with paint. Now, not all paint are going to have that, but the more student or lower quality paint you have, the more prone it's going to be to those types of issues. Now, your pro paint's probably not going to have any issue with that stuff, but it's still a good practice to just use air rather than heat. You can find information on this and all of the stuff we've done today in the link in the description down below, along a link to our website where you can find all cool stuff we're doing there.
And if you guys were at MadeItCon in the spring, let everybody know how fun and easy this painting is so that they realize that they can do it too, because I know some of you guys were like, wow, this is like the first time I've done this, and you were super happy with the result, and that was a lot of fun for me to see.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet, and I'm going to load it with some pure Diox purple. And in this painting, it's almost as if it's black because the pigment is so dark. This is a very dark value to it, right? And the reason I made sure that the yellow was dry is so that it doesn't gray this purple, because I want bright saturation. And we're going to talk about a couple artistic decisions. One artistic decision we're going to make is how tall are our trees. And the other artistic decision we're going to make is which tree is closest to us. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the top of my small tree that I want to be about this tall. So I'm coming over 3 fingers from my left. I've got the corner of my bristles, and you can see I'm just like touching like this. See? I'm just touching barely. And I'm going to make the top of my tree just real fast. And how I do that is I just touch it with those little edge bristles. Can you see how I do? And then I come out a little bit to the right, come out a little bit to the left. And that's how I get the top of that little pine tree that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to load back up, and I'm going to make this little guy. He's going to be over about another 3 fingers and a little bit taller. So here we go. Now the tree that I paint first is going to be behind, because we're going to layer them. And I think today I'm going to make the big tree behind and put the small tree forward. You can see I'm making the little top edge. I'm going to come out, maybe make a little side branch. See how those go? Break down a little bit. And as soon as I get the top of my tree where I'm super happy, I'll dip in the water just a little bit, a small amount. It doesn't take a lot. Let me see if I can show you on this clear water. Look how little. You'll see it almost make like a pool pigment. I don't need to go any deeper than that. I just need to see the pool on the surface of the water. That's going to be more than enough flow with this stiff fan to get everything to go. And I want to smile. So how do I want to hold my handle? Up is a smile. Down is a frown. So up it goes. And I'm going to be working mostly the center. And I'm going to just tap in. I think we all kind of remember that a little bit from the TV, right? Tapping in. Tap in. Tap. Another trick is I don't make everything the same, right? Sometimes branches are longer. Sometimes they're shorter. And I kind of press, see how it presses a little bit?
Yeah.
Into that canvas, doesn't it? And it can even push down. That happens sometimes. That's normal. I'm going to switch. I just flipped my brush over to get to the other side of the pigment that's loaded there. Sometimes you wouldn't know that because people don't always know to show that. That's what happened. And interestingly enough, on this brush, as I'm painting, the pigment pushes through the bristles to the other side. So I will probably flip the brush a couple of times. And I'm just going to keep coming down. I'm going to take my tree probably to about right there in my field. I'll reload just the edge of the bristles, making that little pool of purple on the surface of the water. Here I am pulling in and flipping, pulling in and flipping. As you do. And then look how it's like darker. I can even come put that darker pigment up, making a deep shadow. Look at that. Isn't that fun?
Oh, yeah.
Making a deep shadow at the bottom of my branches. You can do that. Just pushing this down. You're okay. Making your smiles. Don't worry. Can't get it really wrong. So another thing that's happening in my tree is that as it's coming down, it gets bigger at the bottom, right? So my brush pressure gets maybe a little bit heavier, and maybe I take my little branches out a little further. Here we are layering at the bottom here. That's about as far as I'm going to take this tree down. There we go. That's all that's going to take at first. Now I'm going to put a highlight on there. But first, I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet. And let's load up a little of the white into the brush. I'm going to loosely mix it. That means it's not all blended together evenly. There's going to be areas of more white and more purple. See how that looks?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to come up here to the top again. And I'm going to add just a little tap of just a bit of highlight. Not too much. A little bit. Tap, tap, tap. Maybe kiss, kiss, kiss. See how it's just on that corner? Okay, just things with just the corner. And then as I move into this, maybe I'll use the smile technique to create a few little highlights here and there in the purple of my tree. Where maybe the sunlight has caught the branches. Like it might. A beautiful day. Two little tree friends growing together out in a perfect little hill. Far away from the cares of the world. Nobody's going to come cut them down. They're just going to grow and live happy little tree lives. Here we go. A little bit less down there. So see, as we came down, I kind of lightened it up. And now all of a sudden my tree has highlights. It has shape. I'm going to rinse out real well. All right. Now I'm going to come here and do this tree. And because I'm doing this tree second, it's going to come in front of the bigger tree. That's sort of interesting in that story, isn't it? That the bigger tree is behind the smaller tree.
It is.
There's a narrative that when you put an object that's bigger behind, a smaller one, you can not only push the object back in the relationship of the painting, and make some little dark branches sort of balancing out this top on the corner like you do, and then as I come in, I'm also going to make it smile. Lots of different little sizes of branches coming down. Oh, bang, bang, bang. And that's the other thing. Sometimes I'll come down and I'll push down. I'm not like solid all the way through, am I? I'm leaving lots of little spaces. Spaces for squirrels to live in, spaces for birds to fly through. Stuff has to be in there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Things live in your trees, but not borer beetles, because trees don't like those.
No.
No, save the parks. I'm just increasing the size of the tree as it's coming down. You can see me doing that. Widening it out, aren't I? And because this is in front, you can kind of see it pulling in front. It doesn't have to end at the exact same space as its friend, because it could have grown from an upper part of the hill. I'm going to wipe this out, and I'm going to go ahead and get some white on here and work that through, but loosely, right? See how I've just loosely mixed it through, grabbing a little bit here and there. Lots of different little mixes. What?
So, Taffy just noted, well, the example painting, you have the branches going down, and in the live, you've got them going up.
Yeah, and when we did it at Made It Con, because that's what I'm looking at right here, I grabbed one of the Made It Cons, we did them going up.
Oh my goodness, we did.
Because we asked what did everybody want to do, and they were like, up.
Oh, so I guess you can swap them.
Yeah, it's just your pine.
Okay, so that's good to note.
It's just your pine, whatever you like. Brown goes down. Up
And
is
Art
the
high
sun.
five to Taffy for the catch.
Yeah, good catch. All right, you guys see that? Do we have two trees? Did they come out of nowhere?
They did. They just grew
They grew right out of our hill. I'm going to rinse out my brush
out of
so
that
well.
defiantly yellow hill.
Out of this very yellow hill. And I'm going to go over with my quinacridone first. I'm going to get my brush wet. I'm going to load up with some white, just so that, it's in my brush. And let's work that in. There we go. See how that's nice and thoroughly worked in? I'm going to get some of my quinacridone. There we go. Loosely mixed. And at first, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to just do my 20 degree. I'll make some grass. It's okay that this grass is going to pick up some of this purple. You don't want it to pick up a ton of purple. You can see I'm curving up this way, and then I can kind of come out here. And as I come down, I'm going to leave a lot of my hill open. Here I'm pulling through, getting the pigment, but it's loosely mixed. Right. I can leave a lot of this open so I see the yellow through it. And even add a little of this here for a nice little 20 degree. Pulling this up. Just a little open grass like you might have. Seeing a little of the ground below. Loading up. I love the loading up phase. About to get real fun. So once I have that nice pop of pink everywhere, I can go right into my yellow. Quinacridone and yellow, they're such good friends. Put them together and make this next layer of sort of more blended grass. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
How it just blends in there? This all applies whether you're using, normal colors for nature, or like what we have here, very surreal colors for nature. I'm going to rinse out my brush so thoroughly, all the way out, guys. I'm going to wipe it off with a towel. And then I'm going to get it back into its fan shape. And this is why we like this, is because you can get your fan brush back into a fan shape. I'm going to get just my pink, not so much my yellow, a little of my white, and a lot of my purple. And I'm going to cast a little shadow under the tree. So every tree would have a little shadow, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to be real delicate. Cast a little shadow. Maybe that's, whoa, you know, it's just putting a little shade on the grass, right?
Yeah.
The sunlight's there and they're just blending. You can see me flip the brush. And there we go. That's all it takes to get a little shadow. You can always come back with a little bit of the white into your purple and make sure you've got just a smidge. There we go. Have little highlights in there. Look at that. Not too much. Don't want to go crazy. I went crazy in one painting. So thus I know you don't want to. And then when you have this hill, when you have your trees exactly how you like them. Oh, I'm going to actually still add a little highlight. I didn't go crazy enough.
More crazy.
No, what happened is that sometimes when you look at a painting, you go, oh, it needs a little more. A little pink there. So it needs a little more.
Oh, yeah.
And this just needed a little more. Still in shadow. I just needed to add a little dynamic to the grass in this little spot. See? It felt a little different than the rest of the hill. And also that it wasn't just a big purple blop. Rinse out my brush. And I'm going to come get, can anyone guess?
Detail?
A detail brush, because it's time to sign the painting. So I'm going to come over here in the corner. Whenever I'm signing a painting, I try to remember that while it's important for me personally as an artist to use my maker's mark, my name, on my work and my craft, I also don't want to disrupt the whole painting when I'm doing it. So I always think about how I'm signing and where I'm signing so that it doesn't just take over the whole painting and ruin my hard work.
This has been amazing.
There it is. There's my little maker's mark. My little signature. Hopefully you guys enjoy. That's a little different on our lives. Please practice these skills. Work it out. Change up the colors. Do blue skies. Do sunsets. Have fun. Change the trees. The skills will translate painting to painting. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you with the easel really soon. Bye-bye.